actively engaged and emotionally involved in their schoolwork. With fun and excitement, students will be self-confident, curious, and prepared to meet the challenges of the day. I want to quickly point out a couple of things here. There are some numbers here that kind of stick out to me, and one of them would be teachers make school an exciting place to learn is only 19.6%, as you can see here, and also school is boring, 56.4%. You know, we have at the high school, we have added new classes over the past year. We've made an effort to improve technology, and not only improve technology, but teach teachers how to use it. And we're hoping that that can add a level of fun and excitement to this school that will, you know, affect these scores in the future.
Well, I'm going to throw it in again, and I'm not looking to make excuses. If you have a new facility that has all kinds of opportunities to make things exciting, it's a lot easier. Mr. Bernard's done a great job adding tons of courses since he's been here. Courses, students coming to him to add clubs. We've done so much, but again, I think that perception is exciting versus, and I'm not trying to put down the school as a horrible place, but exciting versus kind of a drab old building that doesn't present those opportunities that a lot of other schools do present. And I think that's always going to be an issue until we get, you know, something new.
I think the track was a big deal though too. I think that, you know, there's a lot of pride with that track and the facilities there. So
I think I'd like to add something. I think the 19.6 and the 56.4 could be style of teaching too.
Yep.
That could be contributing to that. And
Right.
where charter schools probably would score much higher because their style is less classroom driven and assignment driven and more kind of collaborative. Maybe that's something we need to look at for the future as a possibility.
I'm not familiar with any of the charter school data, but yeah.
I think that's a good point, because if you look at a lot of the teacher-related things, and I think that's an area you'll be looking at, where we're lower in teachers care, we're lower. It's boring, we're higher. It's an exciting place to learn, we're lower. Now, one thing we want to work on is bringing those numbers either up or down at our own school and not worry so much about the national level. But I do think, though, that especially where we're a much less diverse population, you think you'd have maybe more kids that have a similar outlook on things, and you would think that some of these numbers would be higher or lower. But again, you're going to be doing all the digging into those numbers, so that's a good point.
And the next condition is curiosity and creativity. Curiosity triggers students to ask why, while creativity gives them the initiative to ask why not. Curious and creative students are characterized by inquisitiveness and a longing to satisfy the mind with new discoveries. Once again, you know, there's a lot of data points we can talk about here, but there's a lot more work to be done with the focus groups, and I'll be talking more about the work that's being done in the last slide I get to here. The next condition is spirit of adventure. By fostering a spirit of adventure at a school, students are able to realize their ability to take on positive, healthy challenges at school and at home. With a high spirit of adventure, students become more confident and resilient and see life as full of opportunities worth exploring for their own sake. We see a lot of similarities between the national data and our data on this table and for this condition as well. Want to comment on a couple of those?
Are you folks okay, or do you?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
You know if you had a question or something?
Yeah.
Oh,
If I'm going too fast, please let me know.
It looks to me like there's a lot of disconnects between a lot of things that don't patch in this, where the teachers don't care, but later on the teachers care. It's kind of like the two things are in the same.
We see that too.
Right.
And I think, you know, as the groups, as the climate study team, which is what Mr. Madison has labeled his group, his study group to be, we hope that we'll find out a little bit more, especially when we involve the students more, because they're the ones that produce the results. So, I mean, I think we'll find some explanation for some of that disconnect.
Definitely. The next condition is leadership and responsibility. Students can learn to be leaders and responsible when schools provide legitimate decision-making opportunities, seek student input, and expects students to be accountable for their actions and words. Students who are leaders and responsible are able to express their ideas and are willing to accept consequences for their actions in the classroom environment and in the school community. The faculty advisor for the student council is very interested in some of these numbers we have here. And she's new, and she's part of the climate study team that I've assembled. So, and there's actually members of the student council who are also members of this climate study team too, who are really looking into this data and excited to learn about, why these numbers are the way they are.
But I really like that number. I see myself as a leader. We're looking at 62%. That's astounding to me how high that is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, regardless of the national data, I think that any child who can characterize themselves as a leader has something going for them that others
Right.
do not, and that's phenomenal.
We need to realize their leadership
Yeah.
abilities and tap into that.
Yeah, no, it's.
Right.
I think it's great. I
Right.
see our students
we
as
do it a
being
lot.
leaders.
Yeah.
So
I would also add that, well, it appears that at some levels there's disconnects in some of the data, and also disconnects between teachers and students, and part of that can be communication disconnects. There's a clear feeling to me that the student body cares about each other, and that's consistent through the entire survey, which, if you have that kind of support system in place, which it seems like we do, and you combine that with the almost 88% that are involved in some sort of activity at the school, it's a really solid base from which to build, and maybe figure out why there maybe are some of those disconnects in the communications, and what kids are thinking of teachers and what teachers are doing. So you have that really strong community, it seems, to build from that.
The next condition is basically the top of the pyramid of all the 8 conditions. It's the confidence to take action. With the confidence to take action, students believe in themselves and have a positive and healthy outlook on life by looking inward rather than outward for approval. Confidence to take action allows students to dream about their future while being motivated in the present to reach those goals. I think the vast majority of kids believe they can be successful. I think this is a huge number here, and once again, a lot of kids are thinking college is important for their future, and a lot of kids are excited about their future too. I think a lot of good things going on in this condition.
If I could just, when I read this the first time, there's a conversation I often have with a new teacher. Sometimes it's even when I'm interviewing a candidate for a teaching job, and I often will I will comment on that I believe, and I still believe this today, that the greatest challenge a teacher faces is convincing students that they can learn from you. I think once you can master that, if we ever do master that, is convincing the students that they can get what it is you're trying to impart. And I look at that first item here, I believe I can be successful. I was encouraged by almost 93% of the students saying, well, maybe there is something good going on here, where at least while I might not be getting the result I want, but at least I have the confidence to feel as though I can achieve success.
And there is another slide that includes data here, and although it's not identified as an official condition by the Quayle Institute, the Quayle Institute does recognize that parents have a significant impact on student aspirations. The 2 points, the 2 pieces of data that kind of stick out to me is there's kind of a lower score here. And it's my hope that the Edline technology we have at the high school right now is going to have an effect on that number, because that's going to increase parent-teacher communication and provide more opportunities for teachers to show parents what kids are doing right and well in school. Another number that sticks out, and we've had conversations about this, is the 13.5% here, this number. I look at this as being more in preliminary data analysis, look at this more as being kids are satisfied with the parent involvement right now with school events. There's a lot of parent involvement. I think they're kind of satisfied with that. So that's how we're interpreting that right now.
One thing that's interesting about that is
Another big one there.
my parents care about my education is almost 96%.
That's huge.
But then you say, teachers let my parents know what I do well, 29.9%. That's a disconnect to me, because if the parents care, they do know how well the kids, most parents in this district know how well, and this has been Mr. Bauer's point since he's been on the committee, is one of the reasons why this district does so well, in addition to having great administrators and teachers and kids, is that the parents are involved and they're driven to have their kids succeed.
Yeah.
And
But
so
what
that's
does
kind
this
of a
really
disconnect.
measure?
Yeah,
What does
that-
this really measure, though? This measures the student's perception of their parents' knowledge of whether they do, how they do in school.
Right.
So it's not a measure of how much the parents actually know, because
Right.
we might actually be really succeeding there. But some kids may not care, and, you know, the age is
Right.
relevant here. So, you know, I don't want my parents to know how I'm doing in school. I'd like to leave that subject alone and shove it over in a corner here. So to me, this, like, you know, it's interesting to know that that's their perception of it, but it doesn't tell us the whole thing, what we want.
But that question isn't how we're doing well, but it says what I do well, and it's almost like that work analogy where
Oh,
you
right.
never get that
But-
positive feedback.
Right.
Yeah.
You're always being told you're not doing that great at work, or you need to improve this.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a disconnect, I guess,
the
between
greatest
communication
question,
between
It's kind of
teachers,
like-
parents, and right down to
Yeah.
the students level.
That's a difficult, it's not a, I think you're right, because it could be interpreted in two different ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
interesting.
And I actually had a hard time fitting all the things I wanted to on the slide. It's kind of crunched in there quite a bit. You know, this is basically where we are now and where we go from here. We do a number of things well, I think, that will have an impact on the numbers that we attained from the My Voice survey data. You know, we've created an anti-bullying policy for the district. These three things right here are workshops, presentations we've had in the school that address, you know, pro-social behavior, increased social competence, especially for Rachel's Challenge, Teen Truth Live, and you know, talk about the effects of bullying. The yellow dress deals with inappropriate relations, as far as you know, identifying when relationships are not healthy for young adults. But this is once again, these all have this similar thing in common, being pro-social behaviors. The My Voice survey results were presented to the faculty in September. Train the Trainer also occurred right after my presentation, and that was the Massachusetts Arrest and Reduction Center was involved in that. Basically what the Train the Trainer was is it was an educational workshop run by a handful of teachers at North Reading High School that basically informed the faculty at North Reading High School of trends in bullying and relational aggression, and there's a special focus on cyberbullying too. The climate study team is really what has come about because of the faculty presentation. The climate study team is the team that's been assembled with the tall task of, you know, interpreting this data and having focus groups and also making recommendations based upon the My Voice survey data. Right now, this team is composed of teachers, myself, and students, and we're actually trying to involve some students who are we feel like are somewhat disconnected from the mainstream too, to try to get their voices heard. And it's really empowering these students, so I think it's really increasing a sense of belonging, you know, as they help us process and go through this data. HIVE, which stands for Helping Individuals Value Everybody, is an initiative to personalize the learning environment and give every kid a sense of belonging in school. Last year we covered topics of character, honesty, and this year we've covered person of significance, and it's our hope to use HIVE as an opportunity for students to process the survey results and to get additional information, answer some questions that we have about the survey data, and let their voices be heard, essentially. The Pause group, obviously, they're doing a lot of things regarding bullying, drafting anti-bullying policy, and they're making a lot of efforts to increase social confidence in the district. We've had book discussion groups around the topics of bullying for the past couple of years here. I've already talked about the technology upgrades and my vision that how that will impact the data. We've had the upgraded athletic facilities, which is huge for kids, you know, pride in the school. We have a lot of clubs. We have 33 clubs, 200 musical sports teams, and 18 competitive sports teams, and that just, we're doing a good job, I feel like, helping kids find a niche in school. There were still 87 kids that didn't have